88. Want to take a guess on what that number's about? Anybody? 88 is the number of smart cities across the globe projected for the year 2025. You can see where they're broken out. This is really exciting stuff. A lot of smart cities. And you know, I think we each have a definition of smart city, right? Probably you think you might live in one, you think you might know what it is. And we're going to talk about that today. Let me give you another number, 84%. Anybody know what this number is? If you were looking at the screen, you already saw the answer. How is that possible? 84% is the percent of digital ad spending for mobile projected in the US for the year 2021, up from 16% today. So this mobile and digital out-of-home marketing explosion is where cities are moving. In fact, it is where we are moving, because we are all connected wherever we live, wherever we are. So this is a big deal. This growth in smart cities, in mobile, in digital out-of-home, in the Internet of Things, equates to about 1.3 trillion in the year 2025. Yet, for many of you, you may know this, that the smart city industry, the smart city market is really evolving. It's changing all the time. And some would say it's immature, some would say it's chaotic. So what does that mean for you? Opportunity. So that's what I want to talk to you about today, the opportunity for you to leverage what you're doing in digital out-of-home with the cities that are smarter, that are open to innovation, open to technology. But before I do that, I want to know a little bit more about you. And I've had the pleasure of talking to many of you in the audience today. So just to be clear, I know a little bit about smart cities, but I really don't know your industry. So tell me, how many of you are in the media industry? Media companies, yeah. How many of you are in advertising agencies, advertising business? I guess there's some similar, you can keep your hand up, right? Sometimes, yeah. Is there anyone here from government? Anyone here from the public sector? Chetna, oh yes, good, thank goodness you're here, thank you. Are there any nonprofits here? Excellent. Any universities? Anybody from the educational environment? No, Andrew already knew the answer to that. But I guess what the point I want to make about this audience is that your presence here today reflects your interest in smart cities and how you can leverage what you're doing to make it even better. Frankly, what I've heard today, most of this morning, is that the digital out-of-home industry is great. It's getting better. It's doing more. I mean, the creative is like just takes my breath away, I have to tell you. But you know, I saw that number earlier in one presentation that said 4%. 4%? Is that a big number? I think not on anybody's list. So maybe there's more that you can do. And maybe some of that has to do with your work with cities. So let's take a look at that. Have any of you read this book? It's Tom Friedman. It's called Thank You for Being Late. Anybody heard of it yet? I know he's in the US, but oh good. Dino, you're on top of things, I can tell. Friedman wrote this book, and the subtitle of the book is How to Thrive in the Age of Accelerations. And this is what he talks about. Most of you must know about Moore's Law. If anybody's in technology, you know Moore's Law, right? Can I see some heads shaking? What the heck? Okay. Moore's Law says that technology, computing power doubles every 18 months. This is going fast. You know, when did you get your iPhone, and when did you get your newest iPhone? Our ability to adapt and to benefit from these technology changes can take 5 years, 10 years. I mean, it takes society a long time to understand how to use a fax machine, a new computer. I mean, these things take time. So your opportunity is to help us understand how to adapt to this change, how to thrive in the age of accelerations. If you can help us if you can hold my hand, I'm appreciative. So here's the deal. Friedman writes about this too. What's going on in Silicon Valley, and of course, all over the world, in certain technology centers and places all over the world where innovation is like going at a freight train pace. Everything that is analog is being digitized. Everything that is being digitized is being stored. Everything that is being stored is now being analyzed on these powerful computers, you know, those really crazy big ones. You can tell I'm a technologist. But now these things are being applied to make old things work better, to make new things work in new ways. That's what you're doing. Your industry is all about this. I mean, you can see it, you can feel it. This is very exciting stuff. So now I want to define the smart city for you. And as I've told Adrian, this definition changes almost every time I give a speech about it, because things are changing. Cities are moving in different directions. So I do want to spend a bit of time on this, because if you get this slide, then you're going to change the way you do business in terms of how you work with cities. First of all, a smart city is aligned. The operative word, please take this word home with you if you haven't already adopted it. It understands the value of collaboration, the power of partnerships to get things done. And that was one of your slides, Dino, just a minute ago, about collaborating. Now, in the smart city industry, let me just make it clear, a company knocks on the door of a mayor and says, I'd like to sell you this product. That's sort of the traditional way. I mean, I think that way of marketing is sort of broken, frankly, because wait a minute, you're going to just solve one of my problems? You're not aligned with other partners and other collaborations? They want to look at it differently today. A smart city is aware of its character, its sense of place. This is more than brand image. This is a community identity. When you drive into a city, what do you think? What's your impression? And more savvy mayors are thinking about this. They know they have to make their city attractive. They have to think about the sense of character in the city. So if you could help them think that through, especially with what you put on their city streets and on their billboards, I mean, this is good. A smart city is inclusive. This is really important today, and you see it in governments around the world, the United States being one of them. If you're not inclusive, you're not listening to all the voices, right? You're not hearing what everyone thinks. You're excluding sort of the disadvantaged communities. You might be excluding communities of color. These things happen in cities, but mayors today know that they better start including, or they're not going to get reelected. So I saw this earlier today as well. Smart cities view technology as an enabler. It used to be that we were just buying a new lighting system or a new parking system or some new gadget, some new shiny thing. Today, I think everyone understands that technology enables a better quality of life. And if you know that, then your pitch to a city is very different. It's not just, I want you to buy my new technology. A smart city is resilient, regenerative, secure. This resilience idea, how does a city come back after a crisis? What do they do to get through a tough time? How are they resilient, and how are they regenerative? Many of you may know I'm affiliated with Civic Smartscapes, and this company, along with several other companies, created Link New York and is about to roll out Link UK. This is a genius idea about regeneration. I mean, let's take all those old payphones and not just knock them down and throw things away, but use the fiber underneath. Reuse that technology and add on to it. This is regeneration. Cities want this. They don't want to throw everything out. They don't want to throw all their buildings away. And obviously, the work that you're doing in Digital Out of Home is just expanding the regeneration that they want to carry on. Finally, and probably most important, a smart city is economically vibrant. What do they care most about? Economic growth and development. How can a city make money? How can a city generate revenue that they primarily get from taxes, parking tickets? Did you know that 30% of a city's revenue is often in parking tickets? Think about it. You must know that because you're probably paying for it. But if you are economically vibrant, you care about attracting new talent, new businesses. You care about growing that city so that it stays an attractive place to live, work, and play. So, to win smart city business, this is really key. You have to match what you do with their problems. You can't just say, oh, I want to sell you a new billboard. Well, I guess you can say that. Maybe you've done it in the past. But to me, the really smart approach now is to look at the problems cities have, to look at the issues they face, because these are the things that they need help with. And trust me, I think almost every mayor, I've worked with them all over the world. I mean, they're elected officials, they're politicians. In the best sense of the word, they are generally not technologists. They are generally not advertising executives. They're generally not smart about what you can do for them to improve their city. So economic development, safety, security, and resilience, and transportation. In most cities, those are the top three issues that every city has a problem with. True for London, right? True for, what cities do you all live in? How many of you live in London? Oh, wow. Okay, and then the other nearby areas in the UK? Or cities in the UK, right? Yeah. So most of you are local, but you can see that these issues are important no matter where you live, whether it's Manchester. I was just in Bristol a few months ago talking, it's a very smart city, by the way. Anybody live in Bristol? Well, anyway, go visit if you haven't been there. But anyway, they have all these issues. So the idea is that technology solutions, what you're doing with the city, should help them solve more than one problem. And often you're focused on just this engagement, but there's other things that are going to improve your ability to win a city's business. So, this is the question. This is the question you should answer. How are cities becoming competitive, collaborative, connected, and more secure? The operative words are connected, and it's in the DNA of what you do. So what I would like to do now is give you some examples of cities around the world that are doing very smart things, whether it's about engagement or security or branding. I mean, you're going to see that everywhere in the world, they're thinking about how to become a better place to live. Here's a really good example, Hamburg, Germany. And if you've been in this city or you know the city, I know, Dirk, are you here? Dirk said this is the best city in Germany, and I believe him. And I happen to live in Germany right now, so I wanted to talk about Hamburg. Genius idea, again, brand strategy. Hamburg decided that they would create their own brand. Now, how clever is that? Does every city have a brand? What is London's brand? London is open? Yeah. Open for? Good to know, good to know. Anyway, Hamburg's idea was to develop... I'm sorry?
Foreigners, Americans.
Oh, yeah.
Smart city experts.
Thank you, I'm pleased to be here. Genius idea to develop a brand image, a sense of place. A sense of place that shapes the perception of the city. It is truly a beautiful city if you've not been there. And they decided to look at 12 modules of success that they would promote. Can you see these ideas on your billboards? On digital out of home? I mean, this is a no-brainer. Look at what they want to promote. First of all, they're beautifully sited on the water. They are an international city billed as such. They have lots of festivals, events. They're into sports and sporting events. They consider themselves a shopping destination. This stuff is made for you. So who's working with Hamburg? Hamburg, sorry. This is the kind of thing, though, that I think is sort of, it just paints the picture for you to succeed. Malaga. Anybody been to Malaga? Oh, of course. Well, some people. If you haven't been there, put that on your list. It is a beautiful city, but more importantly, it is the capital of the Costa del Sol, so it's a beautiful city in a beautiful part of the world, because it's partly very warm. Only 1.2 million people, but the city bills itself as one of the world's most famous tourist destinations. It wants to be that. And how does it do that? First of all, Malaga is open. Malaga is open for business. They have this very cool technology park. It's about 500 companies, incubators, accelerators, entrepreneurs. I mean, they are going to set the stage that we're open for business. We want to attract new businesses. Secondly, I mean, it's only 1.2 million people. They have, I'm not kidding you, 30 museums. I mean, I know cities of 5 million that just have about 1 or 2. So this is incredible. And they've actually imported museums. Think about it. They went out to Madrid and got in the Thyssen-Bornemisza Museum. They went to Russia and got a Russian museum. I mean, this is how smart of that mayor. And finally, well, they're leveraging that cultural infrastructure. And finally, they are also trying to become a much more walkable, mobile city, getting rid of cars and trucks and, not getting rid of them, but, you know, getting more people in different modes of transportation. This is very smart for this city, because when you visit a place, that's what you want. You want to be able to walk around and enjoy it. Here's another good example. Melbourne. I know the folks from Brisbane. I should have done Brisbane. I could have done Brisbane, but I didn't do it. But Melbourne is also a great example of engagement. So think about this. They have sort of created, their mayor is Robert Doyle, they've created a vision for stakeholder engagement. So they really want to, like, they've publicized this. I think it's on their website. They really want to do all these things. Stay local, expand social media, take risks. I mean, they're like, yeah, let's be more engaged. Let's really figure out how to work with our community. I mean, this is where the action is. Boston. Okay, I'm about to move to Boston, and I've never lived there in my life, but I'm very excited about it because it is indeed. How many of you have been to Boston? Okay, now if you come back, come see me. That's the rule. It's a beautiful city. They recently issued an RFI, a request for information, different from a request for proposal, by the way. But the request for information had these, just 7 ideas, 7 things that Mayor Marty Walsh and their CIO, a very aggressive, go-get-em CIO, put down as, these are the things we care about for this response, request for information. 87 companies responded to this. 87 companies said we can solve some of these problems. Increase digital access, improve the flow of people through the city, reduce the traffic problems, create accessible, practical, delightful public spaces, AKA digital out of home, deliver exceptional city services, be a more efficient, a more productive city, expand constituent engagement, and spark business growth. What city doesn't want to do that? But Boston's so smart to sort of put it down in writing. And how can your company fulfill any of those needs? You could have applied for this. Guangzhou, China. Anybody been to China? Everybody's been to China. Guangzhou is also a very cool city about engagement. I mean, they have a very diverse, mixed culture. You know, what is it in China? They have 10 cities over 10 million or something like that. It's mind-boggling. But they're really good at working to engage and empower long-standing citizens and new migrants and sort of bring these cultures together. This is hard to do when you have that many people. They're very good at it. So they're into social inclusion. And I think sometimes you might think, you know, the Chinese culture is not really onto that yet. But Guangzhou is. And a lot of the new smart cities in China are definitely adopting these ideas. Dubai, I have to talk about Dubai because I've had people say to me, well, it's not such a great example of some things, but it is a great example of this. So beyond the speed of growth, I mean, they are moving 90 miles an hour. And of course, as we all know, Dubai is not a democracy per se. It has an emir, and the emir says, you know, build a metro in 6 months. They're doing it. They're not talking about it. They're not arguing about it. They're doing it. But the point is that they have a really amazing strategic direction and a plan to execute. They created a smart city committee. And if you live in a city and you think your city needs one of these, talk to your mayor. Get him or her to say, let's have a committee that looks at smart city innovation, all of the opportunities out there. So they formed this committee, and you know, it sets the action for focus. They're measuring things all the time. They're adding stuff all the time, partly because they have Expo 2022 coming up. So, you know, you look out, there's this sea of construction cranes in Dubai. They're building. But the idea is that they're doing it with a very focused strategic direction. And recently they appointed a minister of happiness. I think every city needs a minister of happiness. What do you guys think? I mean, people laugh at this, right? But what is the point of a smart city? I mean, it's not to put in the latest piece of technology. It's to make you happy. It's to make you feel like you're engaged. I mean, when I talk to young people all the time, I say, who's your mayor? I don't know. I don't know who it is. I'm not engaged with my city. I'm not connected to it. I mean, let's change that. We can do this. You guys can help me. New York City. I know you've all been to New York City, or if you haven't, you must go. So you could talk about a million things regarding New York City, but this is a really fun idea. And it's now in 1,500 cities around the world. It's called participatory government. Budgeting, I'm sorry. This is the democratic process to have citizens, people that live in the city, participate in budgeting. So let's say that you have $1 million. I mean, what is New York's budget? Billions, right? But let's say that the city council folks say, you know, let's take $1 million, and how would you like to spend that $1 million? So they have this process. I mean, I have many slides on this. It's a whole, you know, a rigorous methodology to get citizens involved. And then you have to qualify, you know, you can't just be some crazy person, but you could be a hobo, for example, and get on this budgeting process and have a voice. So this is giving people a voice to say, what do I want in my city? What do I care about? This is a very cool idea. I really recommend it. Atlanta, Georgia, also a wonderful city. Atlanta used to be a client of mine, and at the time we were working on a Department of Transportation $50 million grant to be the smartest transportation city of the future. So I got to help them with their proposal, which they did not win. But again, I think it was 77 cities applied for that $50 million, which of course has exponentially grown to over 200 million. But this is what Atlanta submitted. I actually wrote those words for Atlanta, and they submitted it. These are the things the city wants to be. Now, granted, this is focused on transportation, but gosh, these are really cool things. And so much on that list is what you do for a living. You're onto something. And these are the kind of things, if you can work with a city and tell them how you help with these ideas, it's really powerful. Porto, Portugal. This is definitely one of my favorite cities. It is, well, here, I'll tell you about it. It is centuries old, beautiful. A river runs through it. It is full of art and music and culture. And of course, port wine. You know, the Brits put all the port in Porto, right? Aren't you famous for that? Somebody say yes. Yes. Thank you. Okay, so that's another reason to visit Porto, right? But in 2014, the municipality of Porto introduced a new identity. They hired a design firm. I should have put the name of it up there. You might have known it. But in any event, they hired a design firm to change the identity of Porto. And they took, do you know these blue and white tiles that are all over the city? They're called azulejos. They took those tiles and they said, we're going to make a new identity for the city of Porto, not so old-fashioned. I mean, old-fashioned is good, but if you want to be hip, you probably need to change your mode of operating. So they took the azulejos and they asked citizens, what is your Porto? I could ask that of you. What is your London? What is your Manchester? You know, you need to think about it. But when they asked citizens, they had this endless array of answers. I mean, my God, there's so many things that my city is to me. And so what they decided was that they wouldn't have a single logo, but the azulejos, it tells stories around, when they were designed, it tells stories. And so they used all these different icons because they said it needed more complexity, life, stories, personality. These are the things cities are looking for. These are the things where you can help them. So go to Porto, you'll see them. In fact, when you drive into Porto, you see these big arches with these beautiful azulejos stories on them. It's breathtaking. Okay, so I'm done with my examples. I'm telling you, I have another 100 that I could talk. Well, we don't have time, do we? But I just want you to know cities all over the world are doing these kinds of things to compete, to connect, to collaborate. This is what's happening in the world. So what matters to them? And that's you and me and everyone else. Most of us live in cities. The statistic is by the year 2050, 70% of us will live in a city. It's mind-boggling, isn't it? I guess that's good. But here's my question for you. Can you help anticipate the future? Some of the work I've seen today, you're already ahead of it. And that's what mayors want, by the way. They want to be ahead of the curve. 5 years out, 20 years out. They don't want to be filling potholes today and just thinking of, they do want to fill potholes because if they don't get reelected. But my point is that they want you to help them anticipate the future. Here's how they're becoming truly smarter. They're building new ways to collaborate. The operative word, work together. They're adhering to participatory government, like the participatory budgeting I talked about. They're doing things like that, trying to engage and interact, get feedback. They're also sharing a lot of data. This improves city operations. In turn, it improves citizen happiness. If you share your data, I know what's going on with the transit schedules. I know what's going on with, the events in my city, what's happening. They are understanding a city's character. I already spoke about this, but I can tell you that this is a big deal for cities. They have to figure out who they are, what they are, why they're doing what they do. And finally, they follow the money. We haven't talked much about money, which is one of my favorite topics. But cities are looking for new ways to generate revenue. And I've asked several of you, are you figuring out ways? For example, the city has a lot of data. You guys have a lot of data, but the city does too. Can you help them monetize that? Can you help cities generate revenue in new ways? Because if you can, it is music to their ears. I highly recommend it. So this is your opportunity, as I see it, that you need to think big on behalf of a city. Don't just sell a product or a service to a city. Join up, collaborate, align with other companies, with other partners, with other problem solvers, so that a city really understands, you know, I'm not just solving one problem, I'm solving many problems. Certainly, your opportunity is to connect to people, to networks, to culture. I think if you find ways to help every city become an engine of economic vitality, they will be forever grateful. And so will you, because you live in a city. So this is the opportunity. You can help shape the future of our cities, of our world, of where you live. True engagement toward a livable, sustainable city, this is not just a word. And I know it's not just a word for all of you, because I'm seeing it in all the presentations today. But joining up, teaming up, forming coalitions, this is where the action is. They don't want to just deal with one vendor selling one product. So your ability to inspire people, that gives you the power to solve what the Brits call wicked problems. You can do this. And even more, after that, you'll start to help create the smartest cities in the world, and we'll all benefit. Thank you so much. It was really fun to talk to you.